Hey everyone, welcome to Oh fuck. Too much pressure. Okay, welcome to Melbourne CocoaHeads 192 or 192 or 100 92. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay. Anyway, in the spirit of reconciliation, Melbourne CocoaHeads acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders peoples today. Okay, tonight we have a wonderful, great talk by Andrew Murphy, Causes of Colour, More Than Meets the Eye. And then I put Pat Brown may ramble here, but low chance of that happening, like as in post Andrew Murphy. So it may happen at other points. Okay, code of conduct. We want people to feel safe and included here. Like, so if you don't see that happening, let myself or Bok know and we can fix it. You can also, let us know on the Melbourne CocoaHeads website at code of conduct. Oh wait, melbournecocoaheads.com/code of conduct. Great. Okay, good. Okay, that's all as far as I got. So anyway, questions. It's an online, we stream the event. So if you've got questions, Andrew likes to go free form. So for tonight, just if the presenter asks you questions, go for it. But other nights, generally wait until we pass around microphones and stuff. Thank you to our sponsors, Melbourne, Mantle Group. We couldn't do this without you. Gold sponsor. Everyone give a round of applause. And continue the applause for REA Group. Thank you very much. Appreciate the support. You know, good to see you all out here tonight. Some other events happening this month. Coding night next Wednesday. Whew, I can't make it again. So that's okay. Andrew will be there. Yeah, it's a joint event with GDG Melbourne and stuff, which have I skipped a slide? Yeah, we do that with GDG. No, it's right. Okay. Yeah, get to that. Also, social night. Is that confirmed? That's confirmed? Yep. Yep. At Still Brick Lane Brewery. Is that we're on? Oh, we're not moving. Okay, good, good. Okay, that's Tuesday the 24th of February. Awesome. Other groups, Sydney CocoaHeads, GDG Melbourne, and all the other socially things or other meetups. Bok can help. Bok, stop working. How to find us, go to melbournecocoaheads.com. Jump on the Slack. It's going good at the moment. Discord. Oh no, Mastodon. Mastodon. No, but Discord's on my mind right now because people are jumping ship. Okay. Jump on Slack, melbournemeetup.com. This has got to be quicker. Okay, if you need a job or want someone to work for you, go to #jobs. Don't give me that long. Okay, Melbourne volunteers. If anyone is out there that wants to jump up here and give it a shot just for one time, just one time. Sergey, next month. Awesome. It'd be cool. Actually, it would be good to get more people involved, you know. Anyway, speakers, #speakers. Please jump on there and tell us what you want to hear because Andrew needs a new topic. Anyway, I think we're going to round of applause for Andrew as we pass the mic and the stage over to him. Thank you. And then we can...
So a couple of caveats to start with. I am not a physicist or a chemist. This... It is, thank you. Have I lost Wi-Fi? I do not. Good. I'm not a physicist or a chemist. I'm just somebody who's interested in this kind of stuff. And I wanted to do something a little bit fun for the start of the new year, and I wanted to do something that doesn't have the words A and I plastered all over it. So you'd be pleased to know that that doesn't feature in any part of this at all. This is just me reading something interesting and then wanting to share it with you. And it all started because my son, my 3-year-old, asked me a question, which is, Dada, why are your eyes blue and Mama's eyes brown? And I had no idea. I knew my eyes were blue and I knew her eyes were brown, but I had absolutely no idea why. And so I started diving into a whole bunch of interesting research about how this happens. And it led into reading a 500-page PDF over the Christmas break. So this is my distillation of a 500-page PDF into hopefully not 500 minutes of presentation. So does anybody actually know why blue eyes are blue and brown eyes are brown? Because I didn't before I did this research.
Yep.
Yeah? Go on then.
I've read it, I don't know if I can repeat it off the top of my head. Something to do with levels of melatonin?
Yes,
Yep.
correct. But it's more complicated than just the levels of melatonin, which is the interesting thing. So the easy but wrong answer that I thought it was is, well, I've obviously got some kind of blue pigment in my iris, and my wife obviously has some kinds of brown pigment in her iris. This is not right. But this is kind of what we're taught at school. We're taught at school that, you know, a color is because light bounces off something, and that thing absorbs some frequencies of light and other frequencies of light, you know, bounce off it, and our eye sees the difference. That's kind of what we're taught at school. That is one way of 15 ways in which color is made. And it is not the reason why eyes are blue. So, brown eyes, melanin is the pigment that makes brown eyes brown. So I'll go into why later, but it's chemistry that does the work. Blue eyes, there is zero blue pigment. It's light scattering that makes them blue, and it's physics that does the work. Fundamentally different ways of doing it. And there's a really easy way we can prove this is true. If you're a little bit squeamish, go to your happy place for the next 20 seconds. If you extract my iris and grind it up, it's brown, not blue. There is no blue pigment. There is nothing blue in my iris. It is all brown. So, before I tell you a little bit of details on kind of how that works and the other ways that that color happens, a little bit of a reminder on what light is for those of you who, like me, high school was a very long time ago. So light is an electromagnetic wave. Different frequencies of that wave our eye perceives as different colors. The red light is about 700 nanometers, violet is 400 nanometers, and white light is all those colors together. When we see color, something about the frequencies of light that reach our eye has changed. And it's about how those frequencies change where all the magic and the interesting things happen. So just easy proof that white light is all the colors. You can do the prism experiment. We all saw this at school. Interestingly, does anybody know why we see the colors, why we see that band of 400 to 700 nanometers, why that is visible light? Yeah, there is no magic reason behind it. It is our sun produces the peak of its spectrum in that 400 to 700 nanometers. There is nothing magic about our visible light, apart from the fact we evolved on a planet where the sun gives most of its electromagnetic radiation in that frequency. So, to show you the difference between brown eyes and blue eyes, this is a pretty simple animation. So the light goes from the sun, hits the cornea, which is the brown bit, and then bounces back. And what happens is, in brown eyes, the green, the blue, and the violet is absorbed by the iris, and the yellow, the oranges, and the reds bounce back, which makes the eye appear brown. Make sense? Blue eyes are very different. Same thing. light hits the iris, but what actually happens is something called Rayleigh scattering. So the blue, it's not actually the melanin pigment that does any work here. Melanin is not part of this at all. It's the collagen fibers in my eyes that scatters the light. And it's the same reason. My eyes are blue for the same reason why the sky is blue. It is exactly the same physical effect. The blue light is disproportionately scattered and bounces back. So this is, again, two of the ways in which colour is made. But there are another whole heap of ways. So this is the 500-page PDF that I read for fun. If you want to do it yourself, I do recommend it. You need quite a few bottles of wine or beer to go through it. It is pretty dry, but hopefully both. Hopefully both. But there's 15 mechanisms of colour that Kurt Nassau kind of put together and categorized and talked about. You'll be pleased to know I'm not going to go through all 15. There's just too many. There's just too many. So I have categorized them into kind of 5 groups. Wow, it's very small. I've categorized them into 5 groups. Light made, so the light is actually made at that frequency. Light absorbed, so something is absorbing light that changes it. Molecular vibrations, light is redirected in some way. And then a combined approach where we do a few of those at once. So we're going to go through those and I'll talk about them. So the first category, light made. So the most obvious and common of these is incandescent. Who remembers the old incandescent bulbs before LEDs? Yeah, that's pretty much all that is you put a bunch of electricity through something, it gets really freaking hot and puts out light. That's what incandescence is. And the really interesting thing is that everything emits light. Everything. Everything in the universe emits light. Everything incandesces. The difference is how hot it is changes the frequencies that it emits. So us sat here right now are emitting electromagnetic radiation. My laptop is, the walls are. Your refrigerator, if you open it, apart from the light that comes on, it is emitting light. But you can't see it because it is so cold that the light it's emitting is infrared light, not visible light. It's not until you get above a certain temperature that the light that's emitted is actually visible to our eyes. And that temperature is about 1,000 degrees Kelvin, which is like 700 and something degrees Celsius. When you get above that, that's when you start getting all the different colors. So this is actually what causes incandescent light bulbs to glow. Is they are so hot, they are about that 4,000 Kelvin temperature that they are just emitting this electromagnetic radiation. And this is why when you buy your replacement LED bulbs for your incandescent lights, they talk about color temperature. Because the color temperature they're talking about is what this is, which is called black body radiation temperature. So a 3,000 Kelvin light is the same color of light that if you heated any object in the universe to 3,000 Kelvin, that is the light it would emit. It is just the way the universe works. If you're interested in the physics, it's called Wien's displacement law, which, yes, I read the Wikipedia article on, because I'm a nerd. What's really interesting is blacksmiths know this. And blacksmiths have been using this for centuries. They can tell the color of the metal by they can tell how hot a metal is by the color that it is. So they know when they need to heat it more, when they've heated it too much, and they have these kind of, white, yellow, dull red, cherry red. They can look at a piece of metal and know if it's the right time to forge it. Crazy. So, luminescence. This is what LEDs are. So, we had the incandescence, we heated something so hot, it just gives off light. And we realized how energy inefficient that was, and so we all start replacing our light bulbs with LEDs, which use luminescence. Luminescence is the biggest category in Kurt Nassau's paper, but I'm going to kind of summarize it a lot. Basically, luminescence is we've got an atom that has an electron, and electrons, when they're in an atom, are in different levels. They're different energy levels. And luminescence works when some external energy comes in, hits the electron, and moves it from one energy level to another. So it starts off at the bottom energy level, something comes in, boom, moves the electron up to the next energy level. That thing that came in could be light, could be heat, could be electricity, could be anything, but it just gives the electron that kick it needs to move up to the next energy state. But the thing is that everything in the universe wants to go back to its natural energy state. And so what happens after a period of time is that the electron falls back down to its original ground state, its original kind of resting state. And that dropping down from the excited state to the ground state emits an electron. So you've got this energy coming in, you've got this energy coming out. The difference between the two is that in atoms, electrons are only in really defined levels. And so when the energy comes out, it has to be at a particular frequency. So you could put in energy of any level. This purple one that just kicks in could be any level of energy going in, but the one that comes out is always a specific frequency. And this is why luminescence looks so vibrant. If we look at, you know, the aurora here, it's a very specific singular color, and it is very vibrant and bright in that particular color. It's not like incandescence, where you've just got energy going in and a whole heap of stuff coming out. It's a very specific frequency. And this is why LED bulbs especially can be quite blinding, because they've got that very specific frequency of light coming out, whereas incandescent bulbs tend to feel warmer because they've got a wider range of frequencies coming out. So luminescence is one of the mechanisms that life really, really loves, because it's low energy to produce light in luminescence. So 76% of deep sea creatures in some way do bioluminescence. Because when you're down in the depths of the ocean, the sunlight just can't penetrate. And so if you want to see each other and see what's happening, you've got to create your own light. And so anglerfish do that. And also, has anybody seen the glowing waves? This is, it's absolutely incredible. So there's this bioluminescent algae that live on the surface, float on the surface. And as you disturb them, they glow. And so you run through the waves and your legs are just lit up by this bioluminescence. It's incredible. It happens a lot in Tassie. Occasionally we get it here in Melbourne. If you ever hear about the dinoflagellates, I have no idea how to pronounce that. If you hear about that happening in Melbourne, go see it. It's absolutely incredible. I saw it in Tassie. A Nobel Prize was actually awarded for bioluminescence. So there's a protein that jellyfish have that give this incredibly vibrant green light. And somebody was given a Nobel Prize because they realized how to take this vibrant protein and add it to other proteins. And so they use it to track what's happening within bodies, to kind of go, okay, well, where's this protein heading in the body? Where's this protein heading in the body? So it's been really useful for treating cancers and working out what's happening as cancers metastasize in the body. So it's not just a 500-page article, it's also biology as well as physics and chemistry. Interestingly, fireworks. So have you ever noticed, I didn't, so it doesn't matter if you haven't, did you ever notice that the blue fireworks are not really a thing? They're very rare. You get the reds and you get the greens and you get the yellows, but blue is really rare. The reason for that is because the actual chemical that produces the blue is copper. And if you remember what we said about incandescence, the temperature you need to create blue light is really high. And so the reason why blue fireworks are really rare is that high temperature you need to produce the blue light often causes a decomposition of the chemicals. The chemicals break down and stop working. Have I lost my audio?
No, you're good.
No, cool. So The next one I want to talk about, this is kind of what we were taught at school, chemical mechanisms. So this is what I said earlier about, you know, the melanin in the brown eyes, but it's a lot more interesting than just that. Like there is these organic compounds like chlorophyll and hemoglobin that work in the way we've been taught at school. It was going to be somewhere in my list. These are the boring ones that we all know about, so I'm going to skip it mostly. The one thing I do want to say about it is, does anybody know about flamingos and why flamingos are the color they are?
Because of what they eat.
Because of what they eat. When they first took flamingos from, is it Africa? Yeah? When they first took flamingos from Africa to British zoos, they wondered why they started turning white. And it's because the pink in their feathers actually comes from the food they eat. It's not a natural pink. They actually steal the pink pigment from the krill that they eat. It's not a natural part of them. Anyway.
That begs the question, what other colours could they be?
Yeah, it's a bit like, is it rhododendrons?
Rhododendrons,
Yeah, so rhododendrons, the acidity of the soil they're in changes the colour of the flowers. So you can actually have a pot of rhododendrons, and if you add acid and alkali into the soil at various places, you can have one plant with flowers that have different colours, because you're controlling the mechanism. I'll actually come on to that, because that's after transition metals. So transition metals, these are all, transition metals is the fancy term for basically all the metals you know. This is the silvers and the golds and the irons and the coppers. Their fancy chemistry name is transition metals. And what makes them transition metals is in the atom, there's these gaps on the outer. So you have the atom, you have the nucleus in the middle, and then you have these electrons on the outside. And what defines a transition metal is it has this gap up there. And that's just what they're called because of that. And what happens with transition metals is the electrons absorb particular frequencies of light. So each of these energy levels, if you remember, are associated with different energy levels. These levels within the atom are associated with different energies. And so the level of, the energy level that the electron is in actually decides what frequency of light it absorbs. So in copper, for example, the reason why copper oxides often look blue-green is because the electrons are absorbing the lower frequencies and it looks blue-green. Now, what actually happens though is we often don't just see the metals by themselves. We see them in a compound with something else. So, copper, for example, you've got turquoise, malachite, vitriol, all of those are copper. Iron, rust, if you think about the colour of rust versus the colour of iron, the metal, oxygen doesn't have a colour. Rust is just iron and oxygen. So where's the red coming from? What happens is you end up with a crystal structure, and the crystal structure changes those energy levels. The best example of this is ruby and emerald. So ruby and emerald are the same metal decides their colour. So chromium is in both ruby and emerald. But the base atom, the base crystal structure in ruby is aluminium oxide and in emerald is beryl. So the same metal in one crystal produces red and in the other crystal produces green. And it's to do with the change in the crystalline structure because of that impurity. So there is no red pigment in rubies, and there is no green pigment in emeralds. It's all to do with the atoms and the electrons. So, interesting one. I learned this in physics at high school. Has anybody heard this about gold? The reason why gold is gold? So gold is the only metal that is that color. And it is because the gold atoms are so big that the electrons are orbiting so quickly that relativistic effects start taking hold. So we couldn't explain why gold was gold until Einstein came up with the theory of relativity. The atoms are so big that the electrons are just whizzing at 56% the speed of light. And that again changes the structure of the orbital levels. Cool. All right, so this is a fun one. What color is water?
Clear.
Sorry? None. Anybody else? No? Say it. That's okay. Say it. I think I heard it. Yeah. So water is blue. But you can only see it at a really deep depth of water. So there's this thing that we kind of teach kids at school. The reason why the ocean is blue is because the sky is blue. Have you heard that? No. The reason why the ocean is blue is because water is blue. But you only get to see it at 10 plus meters. So that's why your bathtub doesn't look blue. Or the Yarra. So this again is a completely different mechanism. This is a really weird and different one. This only happens in water. And what it is the atoms of water are hydrogen and oxygen, and they're vibrating like they're trying to swim, like water's trying to swim. And what actually happens is those vibration frequencies of the hydrogen atoms flapping up and down create electromagnetic waves that push back on the light. So the flapping of water is what makes it blue. It absorbs all the other frequencies. And it's the only thing that this happens with. It's called the dipole effect. Because you've got two poles, you've got two hydrogens. Nothing in life does this, because nothing in life can have a transparent 10-meter thing of water. It's really hard to use this effect unless you have really deep amounts of water. Okay, so this is my favorite one. I absolutely love this category, which is structural colors. Have you ever noticed how butterflies, they're like iridescent, they're shiny. The blue in a butterfly is not like the blue of blue paint. There's like a nature to it that is just like shiny. It's because the color the thing that makes the color blue in butterflies is not pigment. The thing that makes butterflies blue are nanostructures that do some really funky things with light, which we're going to see. So one of these is what we've mentioned before, which is scattering. So mandrills, they're blue on their face. The reason why the blue on their face is blue is the same as why the sky is blue, and it's the same as why my eyes are blue. What's actually happening here is this scattering effect, where the light goes through the atmosphere and atoms scatter the light disproportionately for blue. So this is happening in the sky, it's happening in my eyes, and it's happening on a mandrill's face. Has anybody seen soap bubbles or oil slick on the floor? Have you noticed how that kind of looks like a rainbow? Some really weird, interesting things happening there. And this is also the same effect that peacock feathers use. So what's happening here is light is hitting the top surface of the thin film. It's going into it and bouncing back again. And light is either constructively or destructively interfering with each other. So light is a wave. If you think about the wave going up and down, if you have two waves that cross each other, either the peaks go over each other or the peaks go next to each other. If the peaks go over each other, you reinforce the light. If the peaks go next to each other, you kill the light. And so you end up with this effect of soap bubbles and oil slicks, where the thickness of the film changes the color of light. So what you're seeing when you see soap bubbles is you're seeing the thickness of the soap at that particular point of the bubble. So you can tell how thick or thin a soap bubble is by the color of it. Or you can tell how thick the oil slick is on your driveway when you have a Land Rover that leaks oil everywhere. So
Had to get a Land Rover reference in there.
I had to get a Land Rover reference in. I didn't do my normal intro where I talk about it, that's what it is. So the next one is diffraction. Has anybody held a CD up or a DVD? There's some people without grey in their hair. So CDs and DVD. So when you hold those up and you're seeing that kind of rainbow pattern on them, you're seeing diffraction. There's really, really small grooves in a CD, and they do some funky things with light. It's also opals. Have you seen that iridescent shine from opals? That butterfly I showed you earlier, the reason that's blue is because of this. And this amazing creature, does anybody know what this is? A spider.
What? It's a peacock spider.
Peacock spider. It's absolutely beautiful. I think it's incredible. There's a TV show called Lucas Spider. Lucas the Spider, has anybody seen that? So my son is called Lucas, and so we showed him Lucas the Spider TV show, and now he's obsessed with spiders. It's one of these. So the way these work, this is the hardest one. I spent a long time trying to find a way to visually explain this, and I really, really struggled. So I apologize, this is probably confusing. So basically, there's the way diffraction works. If you imagine you've got water coming in, and then you've got gaps for the water. What happens when water goes through those gaps is that it kind of creates waves that cycle out. Well, light works in the same way. Light goes through these tiny little gaps, and then it interferes with itself as it goes out the other side. And this creates all of these different colors that come out. So it's a purely physical effect. There is no chemistry, there is no biology. It is the structure, the physical structure, that is changing the way light interferes and creates color. Which is why these colors don't degrade over time. So there's museums that have specimens of butterflies that are over 100 years old, and they are still vibrant blue. Because it's not a pigment that can erode from UV, it's the physical structure. And in the morpho butterflies, it looks like this. It's called the Christmas tree structure, because it kind of looks a bit like a Christmas tree. Can you see that? So the light comes in and kind of bounces around and diffracts and kind of interferes and constructively and destructively, and comes out this brilliant blue. It's absolutely incredible. I'm amazed whenever I look at this stuff, the biology that got us to this point. You know, the evolutionary pressures that this animal went under, that it was creating structures on the scale of a nanometer, a billionth of a meter, and creating these tiny little structures. Absolutely incredible. And then lastly, a whole bunch of life actually uses multiple of these to create very interesting structures. So if you just use the pigments that were the things we talked about in the beginning, you kind of got a limited palette and you don't get these shiny effects. If you just use the interference stuff, then it kind of depends what angle you look at. If you just do the stuff like the butterfly, you tend to just get those blues. Notice a lot of my examples with those structural stuff were blue because it's the easiest one to make. But if you combine all of these together, you can make some absolutely incredible effects. So one is green parrots. Green parrots' feathers are not green. Green parrots' feathers are yellow. But there are those nanostructures, similar to the butterfly, that create blue. What do we get? Remember our high school color theory? What do you get when yellow and blue go together? You get green. So the yellow pigment and the blue structural colors is why green parrots have this vibrant, incredible green. If they had a green pigment, it just wouldn't stand out in this way. Imagine how the green of a leaf looks compared to the green of a parrot. It's a completely different type of green. And what this also means is that sick parrots end up blue because their body stops producing the yellow pigment, but the blue structural color still remains. So if you see a parrot that looks exactly like a green tree parrot, but it's blue, It's probably on its last legs and needs to go pine for the fjord somewhere. And this is also why human eyes have this incredible spectrum of colors. So the dark brown eyes, that is just melanin doing its job. Melanin absorbs almost everything. The light hazel, we got a little bit of that scattering going in there. The green colors are because you've kind of got this brown and this blue working together to create green. Blue is, like I said, mostly the scattering. And if you see somebody with these gray eyes that just look, in this bottom left, these gray eyes just look absolutely incredible because there's just no pigment in there at all and you're just scattering. But the king of color in the animal kingdom is this fellow. Does anybody know what this is? Cuttlefish. Has anybody seen these? These are just absolutely incredible. Their official name is the common cuttlefish, which is just taking the mix somewhat. These things are anything but common. I prefer to call them Sepia officinalis, which is their Latin name. Interestingly, that sepia at the beginning, does anybody know like the color filters, the sepia color filters? The reason they're called sepia color filters is because of cuttlefish. So they used to use the cuttlefish ink in early photographs, which is why it's got that color. But I'm not going to talk about their ink, I'm going to talk about their skin. So cuttlefish use at least 4 of Nassau's 50 mechanisms. And also, does anybody notice something different between this cuttlefish and this cuttlefish? Can you see what's different? The spikes. So cuttlefish also can control their skin. They can not only control the color of their skin, they can control the texture of their skin. Absolutely incredible. We're going to see that in a second. So basically what they've got is they've got this layering, these 5 layers going on that produces the colors. They've got these yellow, red, and brown chromatophores, which are like the pigment colors. And then they've got the fluorescence, interference, and scattering below it. Does this look similar to something we do in technology, where you've got these 3 color pigments and then something producing light behind it? Yeah, this is basically a biological pixel display. They have this stuff that produces it, and they go one better. Because I don't know if you can see in this bottom right here, and kind of here as well, because they're not just producing this backlight of white, they have this iridescent color as well. They go beyond what we can do with LCD screens. They can create this fluorescent iridescent color as well. So I'm going to show you a video of a cuttlefish, and we'll see if the sound works.
The cuttlefish has taken camouflage to the next level. They can change their color, shape, and texture to blend in with the background. It's hard to believe it looking at these pictures, but all these cuttlefish are exactly the same species. They're simply changing their appearance depending on what's around them. It's called adaptive camouflage, and it's perfect for hiding from both predators and prey.
Yeah, anybody spot the cuttlefish? That's your filmmaking expertise. Show me.
I assume it's this bit.
Yeah. Watch this. I like the fact that as soon as it catches the fish, it's like, I don't need this camouflage anymore. I've done what I need to do. I'm just going to go back to being normal colored. These things are incredible. I'm fascinated by these. I've seen them scuba diving. We get them in Australia. If you go scuba diving in the bay, you'll often see them. We get the giant ones, which can be like, what's that, 80 centimeters kind of big. Yeah, they are my idols of color. So, wrapping up, there's a lot of mechanisms that create color. We've got the incandescence and luminescence. This is where the object creates the light itself at the particular frequency. Incandescence, we're just producing light. Luminance, we have that excitation and dropping down that produces those incredibly specific, vibrant colors. The chemical things, which are the stuff you taught at school, we've got pigments in this, which create the reds and the browns, and then the transition metals that create all of the amazing crystal colors because of the band gaps of the electrons. We've got water's weird way of being blue, and then we've got the structural colors, which is the diffraction and the interference, and then incredible things like cuttlefish and human eyes. So really, I did this because I felt like I needed to inflict my pain of the 500-page PDF on you. But also, I think it's fun to look at the way the universe is just weird and wonderful. We can get all caught up in our daily work, in what's happening around the world. And I think sometimes it's worthwhile just kind of going, don't we live in such an incredible universe where one physical sensation that we perceive as color can be 15 different ways in which that's produced. So, thank you.
Don't even need to ask if there's questions.
Do you research every of your kids' why?
I should do. No, I don't. I'm the sort of person who, when somebody asks me a question that I don't know the answer to, I can't just leave it. I've got to know the answer to it. And some of the most amazing questions come from children who just have no idea. And they just are asking the thing that you just listen to it and you go, that's such an obvious question. Why have I never thought about it?
Did your kid appreciate this?
Sorry?
Did your kid appreciate this?
He's 3 and 2 months, so I don't think he.
Well, at least now you'll just be able to show him the video of the recording in a few years.
When he gets older, I will just say, here's the CocoaHeads live stream video.
15 years ago you asked me.
Going back to that green parrot, right? And
Yeah.
you said, "Oh, this parrot's actually yellow."
Yes.
So how do we say what color it really is? Because if you ask like 1,000 people what color is this bird, they're going to say it's green.
Yeah.
So on what basis is it yellow?
So the basis on which it's yellow, I mean, this is the whole point of the presentation. Like, there are different ways in which you can define the color of something. By saying it's a green parrot, what we're saying is the perception we have is that this is a green parrot. But in the same way as the perception of my eyes are that they're blue. But if you took parrot's feathers and ground them up, they would be yellow. So are they yellow or are they green?
Right, so that was going to be, I guess, the follow-up question is, how do you actually measure that? Because you obviously can't look at a parrot's feather without shining light on it, and if it's going to go through the structure. So you're saying they just ground it up, destroy the structure, and you can see the underlying pigment.
So one thing if I go back to the beginning, one thing that's really useful to remember is that we're perceiving a lot of the colors we're seeing based on this visible light spectrum, the peak of what the sun produces. So the reason why we see best in this visible light range of about 400 to 700 nanometers is that's what the sun produces at its peak frequency. But humans can make frequencies and lights at any colors we want, at any frequencies we want. And so, the reason why you get the blue part of the green parrot is because white light scatters to create the blue. But if you shine light that isn't white, you don't get a green parrot. So that tells you something about the difference between the yellow and the blue that makes the green. It's only green because the sun is white.
The sun is what we call white.
Yes, exactly.
Just wanted to add a layer of complexity.
Love layers of complexity.
Because you call something green and blue because you grew up in a culture that differentiates that spectrum, right?
Exactly.
But you could go somewhere in say, Asia, and green and blue could be the same color.
So yeah, so the ancient Greeks didn't have a color for blue. They called the sky bronze because culturally they didn't define what blue meant. Pink. What actually is pink as a color? There's another name for pink. Light red. Pink is just red and white. It's just light red. So culturally, we have decided to call light red pink. There are cultures where the different shades of blue all have different names. And so what we would call blue, they would have many different names. So you're absolutely right. I'm talking about this in terms of frequencies of light and interference, but the cultural element on top of it adds another wonderful layer of complexity.
Can I get one in? Yeah, okay. Did we get an answer on the flamingo thing? Is there how many colors can a flamingo be?
I don't know. Somebody should do that. No, somebody
Sounds
should
like a
not
good
do that
experiment
experiment.
for you,
Never
Pat.
mind.
What are you going to feed your flamingo?
No, I think they're pink and then they're boring grey.
Yeah. It sounds a bit like animal cruelty to do that experiment. So you can do that if you want. I'll pass. Get a pet flamingo.
Is there a difference between when colour is produced up by all these different mechanisms? Is there a difference in the properties of the light that comes through it, or is it kind of irrelevant? And does that create differences between what the eye sees and what a camera can see?
Yeah. So if we look at, say, this, for example, the reason why a brown eye is brown. Where is brown in Roy G. Biv? Doesn't exist. Brown isn't actually a frequency of light. You can't just say brown is this particular nanometer of light. So the perception we have of brown is based on our eyes perceiving red, orange, and yellow at the same time. So if we measured the light coming off brown eyes, we wouldn't see one frequency that is brown. We would see a spectrum of frequencies at different intensities that in our eyes equate to brown. So this is like, any of you old enough to play with MS Paint as a kid? And you would zoom really far in and you'd see that a particular color that when you zoomed out, it wasn't actually that color. It was like dots of different colors. I mean, this is how a LCD panel works. You know, you've got the red, the green, and the blue pixels, subpixels. It's the same as this. So if you used an instrument to measure the light coming off an LCD panel, you wouldn't measure, I wouldn't measure, this doesn't really work because the color I'm seeing is not the color that's there. Let's say this color here, it's kind of reddy brown. What's happening in the projector is there's some red and there's some yellow and there's some orange there that's producing that reddy brown. Does that answer the question? I can go further if you want. I can give more detail.
Kind of. I think I'm asking, if you've got two things that we perceive as being the same group, but they came through different mechanisms, would they have different properties?
So one answer to that is a rephrasing of what I just said, which is say you could get a green sensation in your eyes from the frequency that equates to green in this spectrum here. You could get a green sensation in your eyes from yellow and blue hitting your eyes at the same time, which is what happens in the green parrot. What happens in the green parrot is you get the yellow and the blue at the same time. But to go even further with that, the same wave, you can have those multiple waves interacting with each other. This is when you get into deep physics of what is light. I'm surprised nobody has asked me. I've heard of photons, isn't light particles, not waves, because that just adds to another level of complexity. The answer is yes. Yeah.
Yes, it's both.
Yes, exactly. Anybody else?
Have you been able to explain purple?
You can see it. It's on the screen right there.
That's violet. That's violet. So I was having this. The guy sat next to you who just asked the last question, he's a friend of mine, and we were talking about this a few days ago. The difference, so my wife and I always have this argument, which is the difference between pink and purple. She will say something is purple and I will say it's pink. And unfortunately, I now have a way to define who is right. And I say unfortunately, because she's the one that's right. So, I mean, I've just said what pink is earlier. Pink is light red, purple is blue and red. So if there is any blue frequencies in the color, it's purple. If there's only red frequencies in the color, it's pink. So that's the definition. And unfortunately, most of the things that I said were pink had no blue in them. And yeah.
What color is a flamingo?
Light red.
Did you measure all the pinks and purples?
No.
How long were you sleeping on the couch?
You're presuming I wasn't already sleeping on the couch for something else I did.
Yeah, I've got a question. So, in talking about colour here, we're just measuring the frequency of the electromagnetic wave. Does polarisation come into the discussion of colour or the perception of colour at all?
So it doesn't necessarily come into the perception of colour, but it can come into it as a second order effect. So polarisation, for those of you who haven't come across that term before, so electromagnetic waves are like waves in water. So, they go up and they go down, but because they're, waves on a water are on a two-dimensional plane, waves on water can only really go up and down. Waves, electromagnetic waves exist in three-dimensional space. So they can go up and down in this direction, and this direction, and this direction, and this direction, and even more complicated that I won't go into, they can spiral do it as well, for fun reasons. So polarized light, the way it comes into this, the polarization doesn't necessarily change the color that's perceived, but what it can do is it can change the intensity of that particular wavelength that then changes the color you perceive. So when light bounces off something or waves interact, the way they interact with each other depends on the variance of their polarization. So this is, if you get 3D glasses from a cinema and you take the two sheets out of the glasses and put them next to each other, what you realize is in one orientation they're completely opaque, and then you rotate 190 degrees and suddenly you can see through them. And then between the 0 and 90 degrees they kind of fade between opaque and transparent. And so the same thing would happen with the interaction of the waves if they were polarized in different ways. If anybody wants to disagree, please do. No? Cool.
Any more questions, guys? We've got plenty of time if you want to keep Andrew up there talking. Let's have a look and see if we've got anyone online.
I'm going back to the eyes. What's the physical difference between someone who has very electric blue in their eyes compared to a sort of deeper blue?
That's an amazing question, and I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to totally guess. My guess would be, because the scattering is happening because of the way the collagen fibers are placed together, my complete and absolute guess is that it might be to do with the packing of those fibers and how close they are together, how many of them are in a particular, square millimeter. But you're giving me some homework. Thank you. I'll add it to the next time I do this.
What about purple eyes? Violet?
I don't know. Yeah, I've never seen purple eyes. Yeah, has anybody seen purple eyes?
Contact lenses. There are lots of colored contact lenses nowadays.
Could be pink eyes though.
Or somebody who's got a bit bloodshot. Yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, red is, so the melanin is brown. So I can't, off the top of my head, I can't see how you could get the red you would need for purple out of brown and blue. So maybe it's alcohol, yeah.
Blue eyes with bloodshot.
Makes complete sense. You can get yellow eyes, jaundice.
I can ask a question that's maybe not about light, but might prompt your next talk. Why do some people have one eye that is a different color than the other?
Yeah, it's that heterochromia. Yeah, that's fascinating. David Bowie had that. You could have a blue eye and a green eye. There's a guy, forgotten his name, YouTube channel, 3 blue, 1 brown. So he's not only does he doesn't have one eye that's one color and one eye that's another color. 3/4 of one of his eyes is blue and a quarter of his eye is brown. So that's where you got the name 3 blue, 1 brown from.
No, I'm not going to ramble.
Cool.
Is that it? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew.
That was awesome, Andrew. Another round of applause for Andrew. Thank you very much. All right. A short but sweet one tonight. So just a reminder of the events this month. Coding night next Wednesday, February 18th at Mantle Group. Come, code, great. Social night, Tuesday at the Brick Lane Brewery. It's on. And thanks again to our sponsors, Mantle Group and REA Group. Really good, really good. And if anyone wants to join us after the event, we're going on Mitre Tavern. Okay, thanks for joining us. Great.